You're listening to the wrong things in your mix. You're not hearing your mix wrong. You're just hearing it in isolation. And that's why your mix never fully comes together. In today's episode, I'm going to show you the right way to approach this. And we're going to dive into a session and I can show you a real-world example from a mix that I did. Because most engineers do something without even realizing it. They solo a track, they tweak it, they make it sound better, but then they put it back in the mix and it just sounds worse. So then they go back, adjust it again, try something else, try a different EQ, a different compressor. Then they're bouncing back and forth between solo and full mix. And they're not getting anywhere. There's no clarity and there's no separation. And it's not because you're bad at mixing. It's just because you're not listening in context. You're listening to the wrong things, the wrong way, and with the wrong approach. Here's the reality. No sound in your mix exists on its own. Every sound is defined by what's around it. The vocal doesn't just sound good. It sounds good against the music. Think of the beginning of a mix as a puzzle with imperfect edges. Our EQ is the knife we are going to use to sharpen the edges of the piece so that it fits inside the piece next to it. We wouldn't sharpen the edge of a puzzle piece without knowing which hole it was going to go in. Same here. The kick doesn't just hit, it hits against the bass. Everything is connected. A sound only makes sense in context or within the scope of the final puzzle picture. But most engineers mix like this. They solo a track. They try to make it sound perfect. More clarity, more low end, more top. They are cutting up the puzzle piece by itself. But here's the problem. You're optimizing the sound for a situation it will never exist in. Solo is not a reality. So when you bring it back into the mix, it just doesn't fit anymore. Let me show you an example. Let's dive into a session and you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're back in the mix here. This is an amazing record from an amazing artist that I've been working with for a lot of years. Her name's Sam Bruno. And this is a record we did a while back called No X's. And I thought this was a great example of how we're going to treat the secondary element to make room for the focal element, which is the vocal. So let's take a listen and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Funny how I used to miss you every damn night. Now I love having my bed all to myself, it's fucking tight. Yeah, I really dodged a bullet and it saved my life. Yeah, I know we said forever, but forever was a lie. All you did was show me all your insecurities. All your insecurities became the end of you and me. Now we ain't really friends and we ain't enemies, but I'm so fucking happy doing me. I don't.
Okay, so right away you can tell that there's a lot of high end in that hi-hat and it's conflicting pretty heavily with the brightness in the vocal. So right now that hi-hat loop is just very overpowering. And what we want to do is we want to bring the vocal to the center and have the hi-hat still cut through, but kind of be behind the vocal and still keep its rhythmic pulse. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove from the hi-hat, sounds like it's around 5 or 6K. There's a lot of peaking, and then like around 9K as well. So let's work on that. I'm going to treat the hi-hat and listen to how it affects the vocal.
Funny how I used to miss you every damn night. Now I love having my bed all to myself, it's fucking tight. Yeah, I really dodged a bullet and it saved my life. Yeah, I know we said forever, but forever was a lie. All you did. Funny how I used to miss you every damn night. Now I love having my bed all to myself, it's fucking tight. Yeah, I really dodged a bullet and it saved my life. Yeah, I know we said.
Okay, so right away you hear that the vocal almost gets louder. Like it almost sounds like we've turned up the vocal, but we haven't touched anything in the vocal. All I'm doing is treating the supporting element, and we know that the high frequency is going to be a way to judge how close it is to your face and close it is to your ear. So by removing the high frequencies, I'm actually putting the hi-hat behind the vocal. And now let's try that with the drum loop as well.
Was show me all your insecurities. All your insecurities became the end of you and me. Now we ain't really friends and we ain't enemies, but I'm so fucking. Was show me all your insecurities. All your insecurities became the end.
Okay, now I'm going to take it out and now listen to how the vocal disappears. I'm going to take the EQ out.
Was show me all your insecurities. All your insecurities became the end of you and me. Now we ain't really friends and we ain't.
And now with it.
Was show me all your insecurities. All your insecurities became the end of you and me. Now we ain't really.
So you could go the other way and boost the highs in the vocal to cut through the hi-hat. But then if we did that, it would just be a bunch of messy high end everywhere. This is a much cleaner way to remove what's masking the vocal from the supporting element, which is the hi-hat, which is the second part of the hierarchy, and bring the vocal to the forefront. So here is how you can take action on this. First, build your initial balance of everything without touching any EQ. Spend about 20 to 40 minutes doing this, depending on how big your session is. Once you have identified the hierarchy and found your focal point, start there. You start your EQ process, but always with the whole song playing, and only reach for an EQ when balance adjustments don't fix the issue. When we have masking issues, that's when we pull out the EQ. The way we want to approach this is to remove from the supporting element to make room for the more important one. So if we have our lead vocal and then also have a piano that is the main musical part, and there is a masking issue like around the 800 or 1K area, we want to remove it from the piano to make room for the vocal, not the other way around. This is why identifying a hierarchy in your mix before you begin is so important. You can go back and watch episode 3 for more on hierarchy. So, let's remember, here is the process we should follow. Step 1, listen to the reference or demo. Step 2, identify the hierarchy. Step 3, build an initial balance of the song only using the faders. Step 4, identify the masking issues you may have. Step 5, use the EQ to shape the pieces into place and clean up the picture, starting with the top of the hierarchy and working our way back from there. If you're looking to sharpen your decision-making, your intuition, and your taste as a mix engineer, I actually made something for you. It's a free tool that takes you through the entire decision process I use on every mix. You can download it from the link in the description. And if you're looking to develop into a top 1% mixer in 2026, check out my other videos. I have a new episode every week. Remember, listen in context, always. And I will see you next week.